Any questions from the floor?
One of my questions would be, take a quite detailed look at the farmer economics and which scenarios would work well in diversification. Do you have an estimation on what it would cost to change the situation? How much time that would take?
No, I cannot. As I told you, I was not involved in really doing this study, so I really cannot answer this question. But I think, if you work on several factors, the price, of course, is one factor. No, we heard that several times also in the morning. So price is the best fertilizer. And diversify the income situation of the farms, and that is also something we are working from GISCO with a project we are starting now in Côte d'Ivoire. I think these are some important factors where you can change the situation. But of course, this should be done, all together within. Those different actors which are supporting the cocoa sector in Côte d'Ivoire.
Just want to add, there is indeed a need for more research. I have seen a paper, I think it was from Solidaridad, where they calculated in West Africa that farmers could make much more money on Helvea trees and palm oil than in cocoa. But for palm oil you need the factory nearby, and for Helvea you need a system how to collect it. Plus you need a transfer of knowledge to the farmers. And I have never seen a calculation what this will cost. Farmers should get a training in good agricultural practices which opens up the possibility to diversify, so not concentrated on cocoa alone. So that they can choose. My colleague who did a field research in Nicaragua in spring this year, he found out that their farmers diversified from coffee into cocoa, just to get two options, because world market prices, normally they don't move the same direction. So in years when the coffee price was low, they often didn't harvest in the agroforest system. They didn't harvest the cocoa at all. They had a choice. They invested their labor into something else where they earned money with. Much more has to be done, and much has to do with improvement of extension services plus improvement of markets. You can't tell farmers diversify into something else and there is no market for it.
There's a question over here.
Hello. My question was about data, and so that you've shown some data, and there is definitely a need for more accurate data in different areas. And I was interested in whether there was a proposition for the industry to share the data that it's collecting so that you don't have to keep on repeating yourself. Because the feedback I'm getting from farmers I work with is they've really had enough of being asked the question, and now what's the answer? And so that sense that we're not sharing data is actually stopping us being able to make a difference.
This is a very good question, and I'm stressing this point since years in every meeting I have with the cocoa industry. And also, explained already, I'm a board member of the German Initiative of Sustainable Cocoa, and we are working there to exchange these things. I know that many things are around. I know, for example, a researcher who did it with a whole team. They tried to find out in Ghana how can farmers diversify, which suits into their calendar of labor. You know, you shouldn't have a second crop which you have to put in most labor at the same time with cocoa. They looked into markets. This paper was finished, it was never published, and since 1993 it's gone. I could make a list of these papers I've heard about in different countries. So exchanging data for a long time was a major problem. I hope that Cocoa Action is now going to change some of these things, because they're the biggest companies working together. A few years ago, when we as NGOs went to companies and said you have to do that, they said it's not possible due to competition laws. Now they show that it is possible, and I hope that we will exchange data. Same with the project we are setting up with GISCO in Germany. A big part of it is doing research and the decision to share all these data with all the members, which are more than 60 organizations and all the big companies in Germany. So we need a platform, and we need to make the data available to improve the situation at the farmers and stop collecting data and then hiding them.
Any other questions? And then we'll get to your question.
Hi, it's Anna Dillon from Tesco Commodities. I was wondering how much of the grafting and the progress in grafting is actually part of these strategies to help improve yields and therefore income for the farmers in various countries.
I don't know. I've seen some slides and some presentations that this is a very fast way to improve the trees. But I've also seen articles from Indonesia with the headline Frankenstein trees, because they grafted a lot of trees and they had very good harvest for 1, 2, 3 years, and then it seems like the whole system broke down. But I don't know. Some people say that is the silver bullet to rejuvenate old farms very fast, but it's not widespread. There are people here in the room who know more about it, I'm sure.
I know that in Latin America it's quite common, and it's a very important technique for the improvement data we saw in Latin America. But as Friedel said, there are some people here who know more about it. Maybe Melba, could you say something on that, maybe? Expert from Nicaragua on cocoa and grafting.
Buenas tardes, yo les hablaré en español. En el lado de Centroamérica, el injerto es un método que se está ampliando el uso principalmente para garantizar el tema de la intercompatibilidad dentro del diseño de plantación, que te permite realmente tener plantaciones productivas. Porque allá sí tenemos distintas variedades trinitarias que no son intercompatibles, o sea que no se puede cruzar una planta con otra, y esto sí genera bastantes problemas. Entonces ahí el injerto funciona. Sin embargo, también hay grupos indígenas que creen que esto es una técnica antinatural y lógicamente lo ven como un Frankenstein, pero sí es un método rápido de mejorar productividad si se hace bien.
We have a question over here.
Hello, my name is Michaela Kuhl, Commerzbank Frankfurt, Germany. I was surprised to see that in these models the price is an exogenous factor. If, for example, really the farmer would increase, or would nearly in some of the scenarios double their area, then there would be a much higher production, and probably prices would drop given the importance of Côte d'Ivoire for the global market. That would not be felt by the producer in the current season, but probably in the next season when the fixed price would be lower. So should that not be implemented in the model, that this is not only not an external factor, but endogenous factor?
I understood that you are afraid if yields go up too fast, prices will go down, or what was the question? Sorry.
I guess if I understood correctly, then to meet the needs, some of the farmers would like to double their area. If they would do so, then in the next
season, I think the price would be much lower. So it's not really
growth. If you study economy, you learn something about immiserizing growth. That means you get poorer and poorer the better you produce, and that's true for some commodities especially. We have seen that the growth rate of consumption is a little bit more than 2%. But if all the projects who want to double or even triple yield are successful, who claim now to work with 10,000, 100,000, 300,000 farmers, I think we would have again a price level like in the year 2000, which was one of the roots of the problems. So increasing yields has to be coupled with diversification. In an ideal world, a farmer who has 2 hectares of cocoa, in West Africa, you would produce a ton of cocoa in the future on 1 hectare and use the other hectare to do something else. But this is the ideal world. You need a market for something else, and you need the extension services, plus you need the seedlings, so that on half of the area he can produce the double amount of cocoa he does before. So this is the holistic approach you need. If everybody goes for productivity, we will just repeat the circle we have with, I mean, in economies you talk about, in Germany it's Schweinezyklus, swine cyclus. Yeah, I think it's international. So price go up. After a few years, you have an overproduction, and when it goes down, and this term is much longer with cocoa trees than with German swine, because they need a couple of years to come into production. But to avoid that, you need to talk about diversification.
Is there another question? Did you have a question? I think, we say the obvious, and that with a tree, be it coffee or cocoa, the cyclical patterns are longer. The lag factor creates issues because by the time you have the rev up in production, the market price is already passed and most producers won't benefit from it. And that's the sad and unfortunate reality of the market. With that, I thank you for participating and for stepping in as you did. And we're going to move quickly on to our next session, which is the business opportunities in cocoa processing, and then following